Welcome back to Satisfactory. This is both the last episode in this particular season and our first attempt at live streaming. I didn't advertise this or let anybody know. I just decided to give it a shot and see how it works out. Obviously, I can't pause and run and grab materials, so if we get to that situation, you're just gonna have to you're gonna have to watch me do it. So that's the bad news. Good news is we're basically done. Hundreds of hours ago, 319 to be exact, I promised you we would keep making videos until we clicked the I win button. And I think that we're almost there. 152 more assembly director units, and we're done. But in the meantime, we also want to get a few more frames into the system so we can get this done just a little bit faster. So we're giving ourselves a couple of more tasks. Now, we know that over here, let me jump down on the ground here so you can see what I'm talking about. We spent the last couple of episodes playing around with blueprints and building modular frames, and so we have these two towers over here. This little tiny one, and then I think that's a 5-story version, a 5 Lego block version, as it were. And they're making modular frames. Now, those modular frames are being sent into a drone port that is shared with our copper powder drone port, right? Because if we keep running over here, right there, let's see if I can be fancy here for a minute. Right there, actually, that's really good. We've got our copper wire production, right? The primary use of this is copper wire. We've got a drone coming in right now. It's going to pick up some copper wire. But there's also a little bit of copper powder being made behind this ginormous building right here. And that copper powder is being sent out on this drone pad. Now you can see that drone pad is empty because the drone is trying to drop off something that can't be dropped off, and we'll cover that in a second. And so we built a couple of additional items over here. More of an experiment, really. I connected the first couple of levels, but didn't even fit. I built it just to build the blueprint, but I haven't actually connected them yet, just noticing that. I've been thinking about this overnight, and I decided that there's probably a lot of advancements that I can do on the blueprints that I've been building, so thinking about that as well. But those modular frames get kicked out to the same drone port that contains our copper powder, which effectively means we're building a sushi belt. We're just going to put that on the list of things that we're trying. I think that I might need some AI limiters. Yeah. Let's see if we have some AI limiters around here. I'm sorry if you caught my previous live stream. It was a test of the test, and I had to restart OBS to get some of the other audio elements to work. And then, of course, this will just double as a standard episode in the last episode, and if this works out okay, then I might, probably will, try a Thanksgiving live stream. And again, that one, not going to really push it. Just going to be an option for people who want an alternative option for Thanksgiving. I know not everybody's got a ton of family, and just want to give people some options. And I've already have plans with my family on Friday, so it's a win-win. Plus, I'm already interested in launching Season 2, if you can believe it. And I do think Season 2 should be a pure start over. I'm going to go to a different biome. Rocky Desert was actually pretty fun. I'm about to forget what I'm doing here for a minute. I'm looking for AI limiters. Where did I put those? I haven't been back to this factory in so long. I'm having a hard time remembering where I put some of this stuff. Let's see. Wherever it is. Yeah, you don't have to slide under that, by the way. Sometimes I do. Ah, there we go. It's right by it the whole time. I am open to where you think I should build Season 2. I'm trying to think. I kind of want to do the desert. I know that's the hardest one. And I also want to upgrade my build game. Now that I've, you know, we're working through this entire... We're working through this entire game. Took a few shortcuts. So I want to try another start over and go for a... Maybe not a full beauty build, but... we want to upgrade our building style a little bit. I think we can do that. Smaller builds. Longer episodes. Making use of our previous knowledge and really understanding when blueprints come into play, how to make use of those. So the thought here is, right now, our copper is all backed up because we actually have these machines turned off because they were totally destroying our power. Right? I mean, we made all the nuclear pasta we actually need. So I just turned off these machines. Like right now, I bet. Yeah, it's going to start right back up. And we have a little power. We can let that go. It just helps us not to have to build a nuclear power plant. I'm going to save that one for Season 2, I think. So one thing we need to do in order to make room for the modular frames, we are going to chop this copper so this drone can get on its way. And then we're gonna need... Alright, yeah. First step, let's chop this copper. I'm trying to decide... We're going to give it its own sink. Just so if anything crazy happens, they don't get backed up on the sink. Okay? Might be an overbuild, but that's literally no different than the rest of the game. So put that there. And then at this point, we don't even have to smart split it. We can just dump it straight out. I needed that smart splitter for something, but I don't remember what. Oh, got a sneeze coming on. Hold on. All right. Successfully hit the mute button. All right, we'll connect that. Now, that means, see, now technically, this should be rebuilt. So right now, all I'm doing is I'm just destroying half the copper. Let's do it. Ugh, it's totally unnecessary at this point, but it is one of those things that's a little better if you do it right. Smart splitter right here. Is that connected? I can't tell if it's connected or not. Let's find out. So what I want this to do is I want the front to be overflow, and I want the left to kick out. Well, I wanted it to kick out the copper only. Since we're doing sushi belt stuff, we gotta be extra careful to make sure that we're sending stuff to the places we actually want to have them sent. Okay, so the left goes down here. That looks connected, but I'm not fully convinced that this is connected. Let's just reconnect that to be on the safe side. Okay. So now that copper powder is draining out all the extra, which is most of it at this point. Well, some of it's going into the machine. Must have just finished. Let's see. It doesn't have a huge... Oh. Huh. We have a secondary amount. Now, see, that was actually smart. I'm happy with the fact that I put this in. We had a very small copper powder production line over here. But we put in this storage. Half of it, well, half of 2/3 of it goes back into storage. So we probably have a good chunk. Yeah, we got 40,000 copper powder. Whatever that drone drops off, though, should get filtered in. Let's see, what do you have on you? Alright, so it's got 500 copper powder and 300 frames on it. This is a sushi belt. This is part sushi belt, part drones. This is probably unwise. I probably should put a splitter right here and split the stuff I want. But now I've kind of committed to this, so now I want to see what it looks like. Alright, so the copper powder is getting filtered in. It's not empty yet. Ooh, there's a lot of copper powder in here. Let me grab this. Let's let this get going. And I think I've set this up correctly. Well, I don't know about that. Let's see. Overflow straight, modular frame to the right. Yeah, I think I should probably... Let's put the storage on the other side of this. Because right now we're just throwing all the modular frames away. But if we do this, there we go. And then we have it, so the right side is modular frames only. Okay, so now that drone can deliver both copper powder and modular frames. You can see it on the belt there. And then at this point, the modular frames get kicked out to the right. And then the copper powder goes forward. But I think what I should do is make this any. And then make it kick out modular frames to the right. In that way, if the modular frames get backed up, they'll get pushed forward. And then here, I only want the copper powder to the left. And then everything else will go straight forward. Then we'll drop this down into... Right, so at that point, anything that comes through is basically slated for destruction. And we can pull this back. We don't need this bit of belt here. Let's turn a light on. Mod-free life. You have to deal with day and night cycles. Okay, so now let's see. What's the drone got in it? 350 frames, 900 copper. And this should be empty. Look at all that copper I have on me now. So much copper. I should be able to drop the copper off here. It should go straight into the... Yes, beautiful. Let's see what this drone port's looking like. So yeah, it's going to have a hard time filtering its way in. Well, no, it's getting 50%. Then it's back off. Then over here, we should see modular frames and the copper powder I dropped off. Uh-oh. What happened there? Oh, there they are. Right, so I'm storing them up here. It's unlikely that this box will actually get used. And then the splitter here double checks it, kicks out any overflow, but then makes an effort to move the modular frames over here. Okay, so then why modular frames, to answer your question? Over here, we're trying to make the assembly directors. And this extremely overbuilt section of assembly directors is falling behind on adaptive control units. All right. So we need more adaptive control units. And by now you know how this game is played. When you need more adaptive control units, it means you need more modular frames. Just spoiler alert. So that's why we've made all these additional modular frames. I think I should probably locate my modular frame production before I start doing the injection. I want to say it's not on the service layer, but on a production layer. I really don't remember where everything is now. Oh, there we go. Right, so the adaptive control units... Actually, the adaptive control units are just slow. I must have had something backed up at some point. My frame rate's dropping. It's coming back. Right, so over here you can see you can see that our heavy modular frames are wanting. I don't remember. I really don't. Oh, right here. So here we actually have a decent amount of those frames in question. Ooh, this game is struggling a little bit. Yeah, we actually have a decent amount of these. We're going to plug them in anyway. You kidding me? Let's see here. Then maybe we'll do a hand delivery or two of the rods. So I am looking. Everybody's having trouble all of a sudden. Actually, I think it's okay. Probably could be a little smoother, but that is why it's a test stream. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna connect kind of on the edge here, and we'll pull you down. We definitely want to go in. We'll just go in right here. Right. This container will take in our extras. Oop. It's always funny how you go to copy and always copies the other thing when you're dealing with those. Uh-oh. There might be an item. Oh no, it's in the clear. No. Total airball. There we go. It's just going to be a matter of... What? Man, are the conveyor holes that messed up right now? I mean, that's shockingly bad. Let's see if it's just a rendering error, if it's... That's gotta be a rendering error. There's almost no other option. How am I liking the blueprinter? It's actually pretty cool. Part of me says that, I don't know. I guess I've been playing the game for probably a little too long. I do have a bit of a purist mentality on it, but I can definitely see how people who really want to build things faster and nicer we'll have an opportunity to do that. And the best part about the blueprinter is that if you don't like it, or if you are truly a purist, you can just ignore it. So I like the fact that it's optional. So all that to say is I think it's cool. I like it a lot. What I am worried about, though, is the fact that people can share their blueprints. And I know this is going to sound weird based off all the stuff I just said, but the fact that people can share their blueprints, I think, is going to have a unintended consequence of a lot of stuff looking the same. You know, like if there's a perfectly balanced, no questions asked factory, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to do anything but that. I think we're shipping in our frames now. Thanks for the question, though. What do you think of the blueprinter? Hahaha. Modular frames going straight in. Nicely injected. And now it looks like we need some encased beams. Oh man, the spaghetti phase. The spaghetti phase is the best phase, I think. It's so low pressure. You can do pretty much anything you want when you're in the spaghetti phase. I'm hardly an expert, as you can tell. I have a lot of stuff that's sort of like this end of the factory, where I had this mega bus and I had all these things going, you know, from one floor to the next. Then if you go down here, you can see like it's relatively nice, right? How all the things come across this big old factory floor, and then they go up pretty nicely. But then if you went down one more level, there's a reason why I don't show that side of the factory in the videos. So I think we're all in our spaghetti phase. Yeah, and that's the other thing about the blueprinter is you don't get it until phase 4, right? And the game's not over by then. It's probably relatively well placed. But like, so the blueprints can be shared through all your playthroughs. And obviously they can be copied and pasted, and people are going to post them on websites. So they can be shared, but you can't really use them until you get to phase 4 anyway. So I don't know. Like, to me, if I could have a phase 1 60 items per minute blueprint, I would probably make use of that. But there's really no reason to be at that point, right? By the time you're using a blueprinter, you're using much faster belts. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So rebuilding your factory, that's what should be happening. You should get to the point where you're like, okay, this is good, I'm having fun, but it'd probably be better if I just did this. And I'm having that feeling now, and I'm this far along, right? Like, I am thinking, if I could do this over again, I would do basically all of it over again. Slightly different ways. The game kind of forces that on you in some ways because you receive almost the perfect amount of new technologies as you're going through. And so you're like, oh, well, this is my experience anyway. Right? As soon as I started receiving faster belts, I really wanted to rebuild everything because I didn't have enough throughput. So then I would rebuild. I'm waxing poetic about a factory. And then I finally got to the point, like, I was building my original factory over here in this area. Right? The hub has barely moved from when I originally put it down. Obviously, this manufacturer was a little test bed that I was using to build stuff. And I had another computer manufacturer over here. But yeah, so originally I was building concrete off of that limestone deposit way over there. And I had been through enough where I realized that I wanted to try to build as much original stuff in this mega base monstrosity that I've got going on here. Because I figured once I got it in here and it was working, I would never want to rebuild it. I would just only have to upgrade it. And so I just built everything with the fastest belt in mind. But I also didn't do any math. So my ratios are far from perfect. Far from perfect. Yeah, and I want to try that with Season 2. I want to try, like... So I might actually... We might be building some of our stuff at the same time. Because I'm going to start over, completely new build. And then I'm going to go for, like... a concrete factory. And then just have a place where limestone gets turned into concrete. I don't know. It definitely has the ability to be more artistic if it's a smaller bite, as opposed to trying to maintain. You know, it's funny because whenever you do get to the point, like what I'm doing right now is I'm basically going to hand feed some encased beams into the manufacturers. And that's because, you know, to really fix this, I'd have to calculate exactly how much I'm making in here, and then, or how much I'm demanding. So it's 9.375 times 3. And then I could backtrack it and upgrade each one of them. But then I'd also have to look for between the encased beam manufacturing and all the other places where encased beams are getting used. I'd have to look for places that are siphoning off the production. But if there was a separate factory, it'd be a little easier to just say, okay, the total draw is this, the total output is that. I need to upgrade this little factory that makes just this 1 or 2 items by this amount. So there's definitely some upsides to what you're talking about. For sure. Yeah, you know, one of the things that people say, you're trying to make me feel better about not getting all into the math, which is appreciated, but people always say, you know, hey, play the game and just have fun. I do think that's the key. There are some people out there that fun for them is absolute efficiency. But that's not me. I kind of get to the point where I'm just like, hey, I want to just build as much as I can. I want to just build as much as I can so I can just finish everything, right? Like this, speaking of spaghetti phase, this is all about trying to inject a few things here and there, and then that getting out of control. And so now I have plenty of encased beams, but I kind of want it to go faster, so I'm just going to slap a couple of these things in here, which basically is just going to make it so I use the encased beams that I have faster. It's just, it's a trap, but it's a fun trap. Yeah. One thing that I find, like I've watched a few people, I think, was it day 9? Markiplier, a few people that played it. I think you realize, like if you watch Kraken's original video, there's a moment when he was like, oh, this is a fun little thing. And then he opens up tier 1 and he's like, oh. It's one of those things, right? Like if you unlock tier 1 and you see all the potential items that you're going to have to build, and then you realize there's what, 6, 7, 8 more tiers to go. Either that excites you or it makes you very, very sad. Let's see. I do want to try to... I think my bottleneck right now is my heavy modular frames. I could double check. Let's just overclock all these guys. Yeah, it's one of those things like if you allow for the gameplay loop that I think Coffee Stain has in mind, your longevity in the game will be a lot longer, right? I think what people do is they burn themselves out on being in the factory the entire time and just dealing with the factory. When really you're supposed to go out and explore. You're supposed to go and gather hard drives and search for alternate recipes. And you're supposed to get power slugs, right? And then come back. And your factory's generated some parts that you can then use to expand the factory, and you can try out some new recipes and things like that. So there's more to the gameplay loop than just going into your factory and locking the door and not leaving until the game is done. Oh, so that's almost like a microbrewery. It's like a little bit on each node. That's an interesting idea. So you're mining on the node and then building a key item. So like if you have an iron node, are you just building iron rods right there? Right. Yeah. Fighting the spiders. I mean, that's a whole thing. So where are you power-wise? I'm curious now. You got me curious about where you are in the game. That's always a fun way to think about it. Like, what are you using as your primary power supply? I think I'm going to jump over to the other factory. I never could quite figure out the hyper cannon, so I'm just going to kind of use the jetpack to coast. And speaking of big spiders, for me, I spent way too much time with the Xenobasher. I should have upgraded to the rifle a lot sooner. Right, and doing research is also another part of that gameplay loop. I think a lot of people sleep on the research. There's a lot of stuff in those research trees that can make the game a lot easier. The rifle being one of them. So let's see. In the midst here of I hope these don't count as spoilers for you. Though I get the sense that you pretty much know what's coming in the game. Let's see here, though. I think I'm all out of modular frames. Should probably put a door on this thing. Reinforced iron plates are low, but I think they're about where they need to be. Yeah. OBS is complaining. I'm live streaming and recording at the same time. I think we might be in a place where all that's left to do is to wait. I could go out on one more slug hunt. Try to resolve some of this a little faster. Right. That is a reasonable way to go. I wouldn't even say a reasonable way to start. You know, having a good sense of a small base that you can keep track of. I don't know. I think a modular base is definitely what I'm going to do next. I definitely think it has major advantages. Though, I have to admit, at the end here, having all those resources in one place on a belt that I could just pull from was also quite nice. So I don't know. Sounds like there's probably advantages and disadvantages to both methodologies, which is why I want to start over and try the other methodology. "12 coal power plants. You're doing all right." I still kept my coal power plants. I probably should have gotten rid of this, but I spent so much time perfecting it. I didn't want to get rid of it. Were you around when I started this part? Like, one of the reasons why I built here is because it's on a pretty sizable lake. Like all this water over here. And so under this big old factory is kind of a water extractor section. I went overboard, as I tend to do. These 4 extractors run all of those other ones. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm running a lot of coal power. But I also went overboard and put full overclocks in all of these. I don't know. I probably shouldn't have done that, because if you do the math, you're using a lot of power to generate power, but I also didn't want to build any more extractors, so I just filled them up with power shards. Yes. I have a habit of overbuilding for everything, but the one place where I would highly recommend people overbuild is to make sure that they've got room for power. It's just... you're just always going to be struggling if you don't. And the game does get to a point where if you ran out of power, it would be hard to get the whole thing started up again, unless you start putting things on circuits. Like, I've always made sure that everything I have is on a single circuit, which has a lot of advantages, but the disadvantage is if it ever goes down, it would be an absolute nightmare to get it going again. Right, because without power, you don't have water, and so you don't have coal power. And then without power, you also don't have trains. And the setup that I'm in right now, you need trains for your oil power. Right, so over here is the train setup where the oil gets pulled in. Then I have this habit of pushing the liquids high up and then letting the gravity sort of allow for this underfeed or fed from below style, if you know what I mean. Like, I like this, you can walk around. I started messing around with trying to inject oil and things like that. I don't know if that's really making a difference. And then on this side, the oil gets translated into the good old turbo fuel. And then the turbo fuel goes over into the power palace, which is 75% completed. And then I'm just burning all of that stuff. But the point is if any of that failed, I don't know if I could generate enough power to get it going again. I'd have to think about it. I'd probably have to, what? Take the coal and the water extractors onto its own circuit. Of course, the coal miners would also have to be on that circuit. And then to get that jump started, I'd probably have to put in, oh my god, I'd probably have to put in something like biomass burners? Yeah, the point I'm trying to make here is that, yes, highly suggest that you build extra power for expansion. The other thing that I highly recommend is, yeah, we're pretty much done. We're just waiting for the assemblers to get built. I highly recommend power I call it the power tower. It's right over here, right? So originally the plan was to build on this single line. I was going to try to build everything on this line. So the power tower is on the exact same line as the water tower. And then on each side, you would have the coal power generators. But inside of here, you can see it. You've got this tower of battery backups. I also recommend that. At some point, you will overdo it. It's always nice to have some time before everything blows up on you. I'm sitting on 49,000 megawatts, which I don't know if that's a lot, but it's helpful. You said you're getting into steel, which means you're getting into forges. And some of those machines, they use a... They don't really tell you how much extra power they use. And it adds up. Because you get comfortable with the constructors, which use like 15 megawatts, but the manufacturers and the larger machines use a lot more. But they really don't tell you that. Well, they don't warn you, I should say. Yeah, I think that full circle idea is probably the most correct. Right? Because it does allow it to sort of pressurize a little better. I go for the pump it up higher than you actually need it and then let gravity take the wheel, basically. So like right in here you can see the layout. So they go from the basement way up into the tower, then they get moved over, and then it just sort of flows. And it's all gravity at that point. But I think what you're doing is probably recommended. Did you find the pig with the jetpack? It's turning into a bit of a factory tour. I apologize for those earlier videos, by the way. I was still trying to figure out audio. I think I'm getting close now. But compared to what I'm doing now and then, you have to like crank up the volume just to hear. So apologies for that. Oh, that's why you're talking about the spider, right? Uh-oh. See, I am using some of my extra power now. Let's see. Yeah, I'm right at it. They spark when they discharge. You know, one thing you can't deny is the attention to detail on the buildings and the objects. It's really good. Right. I agree. I agree. And that's what I was saying about the spaghetti. You know, just have fun. And then if you decide that you want to go back and try to make it look better or more efficient, you still have that version of the game ahead of you. Right? If you try to make it perfect from day one, then you sort of lose the opportunity to play the game both ways. I'm just going to check in on our modular frames. Yeah, this is actually our bottleneck now. These heavy modular frames. Oop. I think this one might be empty. Half tall walls? Like instead of a full height wall, a half tall wall? There's a good chunk of walls in there, but I don't... There's a 1 meter wall. I mean, push comes to shove, you could use 2 of these to build your own half wall. It basically looks like a solid piece. Compared to that. Then you could do a little something like... Well, I thought you could, but maybe not. Surely that's not what you meant, though. Yeah, the latest upgrade, update 7. Are you playing on 7 or 6? A lot of that kind of stuff I think is actually in 7. Or was it in 6? Might be in a later 6. There are a bunch of weird shaped foundations and things. Oh, vertically in half. That's different. Yeah. Yeah, I think once you start talking about that, then you're kind of in the realm of these pillars. If you want to build with different shapes vertically. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, the other thing that I wish I had learned earlier is you have to sync stuff as early as possible. I absolutely was suffering. It was suffering when I was on aluminum. And I needed so many... I felt like I was locked. Like I was making really good progress on the tiers. And then I got to aluminum and all of a sudden I just had this sense that I couldn't build the stuff that I needed to build in order to build the materials I need to turn in. You know, it kind of felt like a catch-22. Chicken or egg type situation. And then I realized I could just use a bunch of tickets to buy a bunch of aluminum to solve the milestones. And I could only do that because I'd been sinking stuff for a very long time. So I had a bunch of tickets lying around. So while a lot of people will say, never buy parts. I generally agree with that. But if you're using them to complete milestones, I think you should just do that. And the only way to do that is if you sync early and sync often. What was this? Oh yeah, I brought in some extra iron. Yeah, I'm actually using a lot of iron. Way more than I thought I was going to use. I'm pulling in 3 pure iron nodes. Maybe that's not a lot. Oh, look at this. I've got some encased beams right here. Oh, not very many. Yeah, especially if you're not, you know, fully utilizing it. Don't have that belt sit idle. Just sink it. Or even build just a constructor right in front of it and upgrade it, right? Because the more complex the item, the more points it's worth. So, but yes, you're doing the right thing. It only costs you a little bit of power, and the tickets you get passively. What is going on with Oh, some of these alternate power parts are probably, project parts are probably hard to build. And so they get output, and I get a bunch of points, and then it goes down. But yeah, like right now I have 132. So I can just kind of go through and buy stuff. But that's also something I wasn't doing early. I can show you where I figured it out. There's a section of the factory where I put in like 3 sinks and some smart splitters. Right, that's another... Oh... That's another cool use of the smart splitter. Little thing where you only sync when you have overflow. That's what all this is. Right, 3 splitters. They're pulling it right off the belt. But they're only pulling it off on the smart splitter. They're only sending the overflow to the sink. Smart splitters in the Caterium research tree, I think. Totally worth it. Yeah, I am a little too into purple. I don't know if you played Saints Row, but I also enjoyed Saints Row. And the purple color scheme in that game really spoke to me as well, so... Purple is my color. And then I left the orange pipes because I think they provide a nice contrast. Almost there. 80 more assemblies to go. Oh. I'd have to check my Steam, but I think I'm talking about Saints Row 3. It's the really ridiculous one where they go into outer space and fight aliens, and it's way over the top. But that purple, I might have been accidentally inspired by the color shade from that game. Are you building out a storage facility area? Ooh, I don't have any quartz on me. Ooh. I'm going to come over here and label a couple things while we wait. Yeah, local storage is legitimate. One of the things I do want to do in my next playthrough is some sort of interesting storage solution. I started it with this, but then I think I realized halfway through that, you know, one item per foundation is probably a little extravagant. But then I thought, it looks really cool. What I wouldn't give to be able to copy paste that. Oh, one letter too many. Just put the whole thing in there, I guess. Yeah, and that's one thing I'm very excited about is the conveyor ceiling mount. Why it's not zoopable though, I don't understand. So instead of having to use these conveyor wall, I can just use those. That's another thing I'm looking forward to trying out. Yeah, that's probably the right way to do it, right? Go through everything, have all the unlockables, spend all your tickets, get all your options, and then build, go back and do your beauty building. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I accidentally, like on a whim, figured out that you could connect splitters directly to, let's see if I can see it, directly to lifts. So that's how I did most of this. That one's a little extra long. So I just built the lift and then connected a merger directly to it in this case. And then just did that all the way down and then just belted it all the way across. Now I'm thinking about it though, I don't know if you could do that any other way. This might be the only way to do something like this. The ceiling mount definitely helps you though when you're just trying to move stuff from one side of a building to the next. Like in a storage scenario. Oh yeah. Now I'm just kind of just walking down memory lane here by biomass burners. 20 biomass burners. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about this game. If you sat 100 people down with exactly the same everything and started them in the exact same spot, 5 minutes into the game, all their maps would probably look totally different. That is a really kind of exciting, interesting thing about this game. Right. Yeah, the walking space thing is interesting. The ceiling mounts would help with that. Interesting though, if you just use the standard conveyors, you can actually walk under those. Oh boy. You can actually walk under those without any issue. Even if you use the lowest belt. I think that was probably just a concession. Right, you can walk right under this. Now, not this one, because this one's built right on the ground. And that was one of those discipline things that I didn't do all the way through. But as long as you use your conveyor, your stackable conveyors, you can always walk, whether it's the ceiling mounted or the floor mounted. $66 more to go. Now I'm thinking about it. I wonder if I have some of these heavy modular frames in storage. Guess not. Stairway type, you know, I need to use that stuff more often. I use ramps. It's probably not the official way. I know there's the one I used over in the plastic factory Right, so there's this. And there's the other one. I can't remember the name of it exactly. Let me run over there. I mean, if I really wanted it, we could figure it out, but it gives me an excuse to go over there and check out the plastic factory. Because they do have the kind of like that 90-degree staircase, and then they have the industrial ramp, which is a lot nicer than just using these foundational ramps. So if you're just talking about like transversal of level, you have what I would say is 4 options. Where is it? Yeah, it's over here. Right, so this is kind of like the straight little stair. Catwalk stairs. And then I put in this catwalk. I really didn't commit to it because that's all I did with it. And then another stair on the other end. And then you have your foundations, and then you have this yeah, the catwalk stairs, and then you have this little... These stairs are good if you want to build like a rounding thing like this. But I don't know why I would want to do that. Of course, now that we have blueprints, I could see someone doing something kind of interesting with this. Right, and then you have your basic ramp. And then, of course, you have your ladder. I'm a big fan of the ladder. I probably overused it during this playthrough. Yeah, the catwalks are in there, and they're cheap. Yeah, I've seen somebody make halfway decent use of this. I wonder... You probably can't apply any material options to this. Yeah. You're stuck with the design that they give you. Oh no! Oh, see? There we go. Let's see if we can angle this right. Sometimes when you use the thumb button, it permanently selects things that you don't want to be selected. There we go. Right. Yeah. I had a weird time with the blueprints on the snapping points. And then I checked out some other videos, and there's some weird workarounds like putting down foundations and then attaching to that. I just used a wall. But sounds like you've used the stairs more than me, so you would know if they're problematic or not. No, don't go over there yet. You couldn't get him to snap like going up and around like I was building? I don't think I was doing anything too cool Let's see. Doop, doop, doop. You know, it was actually easier when I was running up. Let's see if it do that again. Whoa. My habit of always sprinting gets me. Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, they may have tweaked it. I don't know what version of the game you're playing in. Maybe they tweaked the snap point. Because this is actually what I would expect it to do, right? You have the stairs, then you have a landing. Even it'll let you connect the stairs at the landing point in all directions. It's not too bad. Now this is what's weird, and maybe this is what you're thinking about, is now, I mean, what are you doing to connect this? Like, I don't understand this. So the flat side of the landing is a full foundation size. That, I think, is the weirdest part of the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm like you. I really didn't like the way they looked. I tried using them for something. And then... oh, look at that. There's a little lip there. Did I do that on purpose? That seems to be the only option. Yeah, you're right. There is something weird going on. What building are you building that you want to use stairs for? The reason why I don't like these stairs is because they don't go up enough. Like, it's only half a thing. I feel like it's only half a height. And then I gotta turn. I don't know. Yeah, it's literally half a wall. I haven't used enough cliff. The closest I got was this little quick wire factory that I built over here. It's hardly a cliff, but it is kind of pulling in, kind of on an edge. Not really. No, it doesn't count at all, actually, now I'm looking at it. All these See, there's still some spaghetti in here. What was I doing? Let's see. I ended up making more than one belt's worth of quick wire off of this one, probably close to maxed. Yeah. It is annoying to me that lets you build a miner that you can overclock that's faster than the fastest belt. And then once the Caterium ore got in here, I started smelting it, and then I made it into quick wire. It turns out that it was more than one belt's worth, so I had to bring it out on 2 separate belts. But that's as close as I got to building on a cliff. And like I said, looking at it now, it's not really a cliff. I don't know. Why did I build this right here? I was probably trying to up my style a little bit. Alright, you're making a good case for your half holes. Half vertical walls. I'm trying to think if I've seen anything like that. There's no way to fake it. Like, you could clip it into a wall, but you'd only be able to do that on the edges. You wouldn't be able to do it in the middle. And the other secret that I've seen, I don't even know if I have it. Do I have the road barrier? Oh, I do. This road barrier thing snaps weird. So you can, like, snap something to that in a weirder way. It's not what you want, but it's as close as I could get. Looks like... Well, wait a minute. I think it's snapping foundations. Is that what you do? I don't know. Oh, well, yeah. See, there we go. It did it for a second. But that's not going to make the foundation smaller. Didn't they give us half foundations? You're making a good case here. Why'd they give you half foundations if they weren't going to give you... Yeah, they did give you half foundations. Yeah, man, I don't know. That is weird. Yeah, it's funny, the smoky stuff outside thing. I don't know. I definitely prefer it whenever I can. I didn't do it in the Mega Factory. I made the ceiling extra high, and like over here in the Power Palace where we've got the fuel generators, I actually built in a little gap so the theoretical smoke could escape. Right, you can see that gap right there. Doot, 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 doot. So inside here you would have your generators, but then they would have a little space where the role play smoke could get out. And I did that for every level all the way up. I don't want to give Coffee Stain any ideas, though. I'd hate for it to be a situation where they're like, oh, let's calculate the smoke, and then if you build it inside, then you can't see because it's a smoky-filled room, and And now you're getting poisoned by carbons. It's like, no, I just want to sort of have a cool looking thing like this where the dirty stuff gets made outside and the clean room is inside for the finer components. But that's cool. I'm glad I gave you an idea that you can make use of. Yeah, I'm seeing what you're saying. The more we talk about it, the more a wall to match this foundation makes sense. Is there like some sort of no, it's just the material, and these are just tilted. Yeah, I don't think it's in there. Height only, not width. You've convinced me. 50 more items. Yeah, see, even my my coal, and then I made sure give a little bit of a separation between the two so the smokestack doesn't run into the factory. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen people hand construct curved stuff. I'm not sure it's worth it. It looks nice when it's done from a distance, but when you get close to it, it seems like there's like the little jittery parts. So they would have to, Coffee Stain would have to commit to that. I mean, you want to talk about snapping point problems when you start talking curve stuff. Yeah, it'd be cool to see what you've got going when you feel comfortable, because I don't know if I have the guts to try to do curve stuff, but I'm a little too into the big boxes with a lot of glass. I set up all this nuclear power stuff, and now I don't think I'm ever gonna complete it. Going down a tour memory lane here. I figured I'd come visit here. See, I was all excited. I spent so much time getting this plutonium thing ready to go. Oh, man. I actually did the math here, because if you don't, you run the risk of serious power issues. And then I also made the mistake of finding the edge of the map. It's funny, the edge of the map in this game is kinda weirdly shaped. Have you found the edge of your map yet? Or it's all the same map, but in your playthrough? So I think on the other side of this railing, the edge starts. Yeah. So that was a partial turn off too. It was a partial turn off to finishing this thing. Is like, oh, and I get it, right? It looks cool to not have an invisible wall, and it looks cool to have, I think, what they call Paradise Island over there. It's just like, oh. So I don't know. Next time, I'll have to build a super crazy nuclear power plant to make up for abandoning this one. Yeah, the Rocky Desert really worked out well for me. I was really happy. And I can't remember. This might be one of the mid-tier difficulty starting zones. I was pretty happy with it. I mean, there's so much water. It was way more water than I was planning. And then once I realized I could pump water out of the ocean, I got really excited. And then it was like so much iron. But I think all the starting zones probably have a lot of iron. I don't know. I was happy with it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then I was like, man, the water in this game, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I have 90% understanding of the fluid dynamics. And I just feel like, oh, I'd have to tweak it, and then I'd be in a place where I couldn't actually build because I'd die, and Next time, I will find a giant lake, put some nuclear power down. Nuclear power is complicated, though. My goodness. And there's a lot of little steps that you have to take that you can't really use for anything else. But it is a lot of power. So I guess that's the point. $40 more to go. Oh, yeah. Do you know if they're adding a new starting zone? I'm seeing some stuff about like some new zones, but it seems like the starting zones are the same. I am seeing, like you, I am seeing some new biomes, I guess is what we'll call it. Let's see where we are. Oh, look at that. The encased beams were actually my bottleneck the entire time. Yeah, everybody's very excited about the mythical Paradise Island. It'll be interesting to see what the general story is for the game. Hey! Speaking of which, any thoughts on other games to consider? Or are you one of the Satisfactory only folks? I'm looking to add a couple of new games into the mix. Dome Keeper, I mean, it didn't do very well even for me. And Railgrade, I think, is kind of just more of the same. And I like the game enough that I don't want to spoil all of it. I want to give people a reason to go ahead and buy it. So right now, the primary game that I have is just Satisfactory, which is more than enough, really. But if there are other games that you're considering or you think would be cool to play on camera, let me know. I do have one in mind. Battletech. It's a Paradox game. I've been playing a lot of Victoria 3. But the version of that game that I'm playing is probably not really fun to watch. So, probably keep that one to myself. Oh, I'm just sort of gliding around. Let's drop this stuff off. Trains or trucks in Satisfactory? Yeah, I'm using... I have 2 different train lines and 1 trucking line. Let me drop this off and we'll go around and talk about it real quick. I actually like the trucks better than I like the trains. Oh, there we go. The trains are actually... They're good. They're amazing. They're great for bulk movement of stuff over long distances. But the timing aspect of it, I never feel like I can get the timing right. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So there's a trucking episode where I build out this trucking highway. I can't remember the name of it. It's definitely early. Um, and I build out this little area using ramps. And the reason why I use trucks and not... Wait. So the trucks, if you mean trucks specifically and not tractors, right? So tractors are the first ones you get. These little snub-nosed guys. They kind of have a smaller storage capability. Oh, wow. There's a lot of tractors on this list. They shouldn't be so close together. But they're good because they can go up these big, steep hills. The truck can't make this lift. And I think the Explorer vehicle can now, but in the earlier version of Update 6, it couldn't do it either. So if you're going to do anything like this, where you're going to go up 45-degree angle for an extended period of time, see how slow they're going? That's because it's actually simulating torque, and it'll speed up once it gets on flat ground. So yeah, I like the tractors. I use only tractors to pull this coal into the base for the coal power plants and for steel. See, now that's weird. I should never have a situation where I have full coal. What is going on here? But the thing that I definitely will say, and I mentioned it in the video, is that you definitely want to be in a situation where you're not... If you only want to build one vehicle and put it on AI, then fine. You should do whatever you want. But if you ever want to put 2 vehicles on the AI, you need to build out your highway so the items will never cross. Because if these 2 vehicles ever cross, they will at some point run into each other in deadlock, and then you'll have to manually go back and fix it. Yeah, so that's why if you look at it, they're not crossing. Oh, well, yeah, see, they're simulating. So the reason why people don't like tractors is because they simulate when you aren't looking. They don't actually do this stuff. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Like sometimes when you look away and then you look back, see that? How it jumped? See if I can make it do it again. Nah. There, I did it again. It's actually simulated. So the fact that this game works at all is actually a technical marvel. And so, like, if you look at this, it's actually 4 foundations wide the whole way. So when you come in at one level. You come at this level, right? And you chum around. Then I built these power poles just to sort of mark it so I could go around here. And then the tractor comes in here and grabs the loot. And then it comes back up on its own 2-lane highway. Then it connects back to the main thing. So they never overlap. I know, I'm going into crazy amounts of detail now. I should have caught a ride. It would have been a lot faster. It's way faster to go into the base, downhill, than out of the base, uphill. Let me put on... And then over here... I should cut that tree down. Over here I did the same thing, but kind of in reverse, right? So you come in, then it goes under, and then they go down into the basement, they drop off the coal, they come back up, and they come out here, and it goes over this little overpass, right? So coming in, it goes under here, and then coming out, it comes out over. Well, like this one's doing. Oh. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of people, I think Total Eclipse, he swore off tractors. I don't get it. It's fine. He does a little simulated thing. As long as the path never crosses, I've never had trouble. I mean, I've run this system for a couple 100 hours and I've never had a deadlock. So I find the trucks to be, or I'm sorry, the tractors to be amazing. I don't use the trucks. They're bigger storage. They actually are a little faster, but they can't make the 45-degree inclines. So I don't use them. And then the trains, I'm probably not using them right. You know, they have the signaling, which is kind of fun and kind of neat. But like this train right here. Oh, wait. It's actually empty. Oh, no. See, it's not empty. All the oil didn't get transferred in. So it's going to take partial containers back out. And then each one of these has 2 outputs, and I'm using each one of those outputs into separate storage, right? So I've got 6 platforms. No, I've got 3 platforms, and each platform has 2 storage areas. So I'm making full use of the ability for it to output. But I guess I'm just not using the oil fast enough. And so another train's going to arrive. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that for this particular application, I would have been happier in the long term if I just built an incredibly long pipe system and just piped it over. You know, just pumped it out, pumped the oil out of the ground, put it in storage on that end, and then just piped it over here. Then I would always have the maximum amount of oil available to me. So, I don't know. I'm not as happy with the trains as I am with the tractors, but especially for liquids. I find the liquids to be quite annoying for trains. Now, this train is bringing in 2 cars of quartz, sulfur, and coal. Well, we can see it over here. Much happier with this. I did, once again, I didn't do the math, so I'm not using nearly enough quartz. And, you know, whenever these things drop off, it stops the output, which I find weird. I kind of get it. Right, so the quartz is going to start to flow again. But I think I like trains better for solid materials as opposed to fluid materials. I almost would say I would rather pipe liquids in pipes. Of course, you're limited at that point. I mean, at the beginning of the game, it's only 300 metric cubic fluids per minute, which the trains can do more than that. So it's a balancing act, but it's hard to increase the liquid flow if you have trains because I don't quite understand the drop-off. Like, I have 2 trains that are doing this, but since that train just left, this station is still basically full. It's only dropped off 400. And so now it's going to try to drop off, and it's only going to be able to drop off 400 more. So I guess my review would be like tractors 4.5 out of 5, and trains for liquids maybe a 2. I'd say below average. But for solid components, I might give trains a 4. The bulk nature of them is still really good. Like, I can tell by this that I'm not loading up enough sulfur on the other side of this. So only one of them is outputting. Oh, that's okay. That's probably more answer than you were looking for. Adjust the timing of the stop. Okay, yeah, let's take a peek at that. There is something. Actually, let's take a peek at it on the liquid side. Let's look at it for the oil. Because you're right. I did spend 10 minutes complaining about it. And there is a something in here. Timetable. Oh, do I have to make these changes on the train? I think I have to make the changes on the train itself. Oh wait, there it is. One load unload has been completed. Freight wagon fully loaded or unloaded. Or I can have it wait for a certain number of seconds. Yeah. No, you're right. It is the gear icon. I gotta remember that we're probably talking on a delay here, so yeah. So I could say on Megabase 1, stay at the station until it's fully unloaded. Is that better? I guess technically it would be better. And see, look, that's another thing. Is this one, it's connected to the turbo fuel, so it uses its oil a lot more efficiently. That's another one of these secret challenges to this game, is trying to say, like, how do I make it so all of these various oil components flow to where they're needed most? I hadn't quite figured that out. But you're right. You're totally right. I could make it stay until it's totally unloaded. That would save a little bit of energy as well. So good point. But I still think I like the tractors better. The trains have the advantage that you don't have to package the liquid to transport it. If you did that in a tractor, you'd have to use a packager to package the liquid into a package. I have my only packager over here making package fuel for the jetpack, basically. Right, I think we have that in common. Like, it's like, well, I could do the math on this. I could calculate the distance, the speed of the train, the amount and the lag associated with the amount of liquid it can transport, and that you would get a literal, you know, cubic meters of water per second, or cubic meters per oil per second. Or I can just keep adding trains until the station's full, and that's basically where we are. You know, I played Astroneer with a couple of friends back in its early access days. I haven't played Planet Crafter though, or Stationeers, and I also got No Man's Sky when it first came out. I heard that that's vastly improved, so it might be worth looking at No Man's Sky for a little bit. Appreciate the ideas. Yeah, and you know, trains are not required. You don't necessarily have to use trains. I mean, I've seen plenty of people build insane conveyor belt networks. You know, you just go in here, you grab your logistics, get a couple of these, and you just build another every 7 foundations for as long as you want, and then come back and slap in some conveyors, but that's a pain as well. Stationeers. Alright, alright. I have to take note of that one. Oh man, I just remembered. I went all out on trying to get that uranium set up, and I'm not even going to use it. I mean, uranium is really... the only reason why you would use it is for nuclear power. Oh, I hear ya. A massive conveyor belt network would be a pain. Very special kind of pain. But that's why I like the tractors. It's kind of a best of both worlds. Have you set up your own? If you're doing coal, then you're probably at the place where you have access to the tractors. Have you set up your own little tractor AI network? I mean, mine's super little, so... yours is probably cooler than mine. Yeah. Yeah, I try to avoid... I ran power to everything Like everything I have is on one circuit. But building power is a lot easier than trying to build all those conveyor belts. And that's before you consider things like the look of it. Ooh, so you're going fancy. You're gonna have a road network with multiple stops and things like that. That's cool. Yeah, the hypertubes is definitely one of the things that I want to do more of on another playthrough. I barely used it. I mean, I used it to go from the bottom floor here to like near the top and from here to the nuclear power plant, and that was it. I spent way too much time running around. I should have had a hypertube hub, and then in that hub, I should have built single tubes to each one of my locations. Like I should have had an output that came here, maybe even one over to the power palace, one over to that coal field that we were just at. I should have had a full hypertube network. Or you could go out and build a hypertube cannon, but I can never get those to work. Yeah, you know, it's funny. The map is so big. I mean, I guess I hit a decent... Is that a decent amount? I can't tell how big the map is. Is that... That's not the end of it, is right there, is it? On your playthrough, did you use the map tool? Or are you just kind of going through it as you explore it? Oh. It's funny, the self-imposed rules that this game allows you to put on yourself, right? I don't know if you played Valheim, but Valheim has a very similar build, but it doesn't allow for unsupported items. Right? So all this ramps that are just kind of connected on edges wouldn't be allowed. It would fall down. But then I often find myself adding in supports, even though it's not really necessarily required. Then I go back and try to eliminate clipping, and I've seen a couple of people say that they want to try to work with the environment. I think that's just one of the other awesome parts of this game, is that it allows you to set your own rules, as it were. Uh-oh. We're down to 3 assembly directors. Ah. Yeah, I wish... I don't know. What am I thinking here? I wish there was a mode like if you beat the game, you would have an option to play again, but with everything unlocked from the start. I think that'd be kind of neat. Land on a fresh world, have all the same requirements, right? But you could build, everything would be unlocked to start. So you wouldn't be unlocking things for the express purposes of adding your tools, but just to sort of progress through the game. Three more assembly directors. Oh, 2 more. What's the BN and BN Doug 66 stand for? Yeah, it would be something between a stock playthrough and a creative mode. Right? It's like you earn the ability to play with everything unlocked. This is the only thing that I'm sort of dreading is playing through on season 2 and having 30 items per minute belts again. Oh man. It's gonna be rough. Where are my... Oh, it's over here. You know, if I really wanted to finish this right now, I could probably grab one of these. I way overbuilt this. When I built this, I thought, oh man, I'm just going to fire these things off. And I didn't have anywhere near enough adaptive control units. Ah, yes. Cool. Well, there you go. That's it. I think I'm going to push the button. This is truly a hangout session, too. How long have we been going? 2 hours, 15 minutes. Wow, it didn't seem like that at all. What did I do over here? Oh yeah, this is just a tower to lift all this stuff directly into the space elevator. And that's probably why my point totals are spamming all over the place. Oh, it's a little bit better now. Oh yeah, and I'm going to have to go through with the DNA points and also see what's going on there. Doug the Thug. Well, Doug the Thug, you get to be here when I push the button officially. 74 episodes. 322 hours. And we're ready to complete it. There we go. I have to admit, when I first started this, I didn't know how long it was going to take. But now that I'm done, I kind of do want to start over and build it just a little bit better the next time. Thanks, buddy. It's a heck of a ride. Oh man, are they trying to claim that there's going to be more stuff after that? Jeez. There we go. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna take note of some of those games that you suggested. I'm gonna I might try to stream tomorrow. I mentioned this way early in the video. I know a lot of people aren't gonna have tons of family around, or they're gonna try to avoid family, so I was gonna try to stream a good chunk of Thanksgiving. And I don't want to only do Satisfactory as much as I like it. I want to make sure that there's, you know, opportunities for other games. So definitely up for feathering in some other games and trying to attract a few more people to the channel. But I appreciate that you're going back through and watching some of the older stuff and putting up with all of the learning curve that I had to go through to get this far. So it's very much appreciated. I'm going to switch over to the golden cup here. That's a victory sip if I ever had one. Yeah, you know, some people some people want to have family and don't have the option, and other people have too much family time, so I just want to give everybody an alternative option. And then my plans are to hang out with family on Friday, so it's a win-win for everybody involved. But by all means, if you've got better plans, then congratulations. I hope you take advantage of those. Well, it's very kind of you to say that. I appreciate it. I do think I'm going to sign off, though. Just for today. I really do appreciate hanging out. Quite literally in this case. Appreciate the conversation. enjoyed the feedback. I'm glad you enjoyed my smoky stuff outside aesthetic. And we'll catch you next time. I would say that there's going to be... Well, there's going to be new videos tomorrow, and there'll probably be new videos on Friday. Maybe not over the weekend. So, all that to say that I'm not going anywhere. But as far as a first game to really focus on the channel, it's been really a lot of fun to play this Satisfactory all the way through, and I promised you I'd go to the end, and 300 hours later, we've made it. Yes, have a happy Thanksgiving to you as well. All right. I'll see you next time, buddy.